Birks writes, why have Marvel Studios been reluctant to have magic in their movies? I know in Thor, they said that what humans call magic is science to Asgardians. If Marvel Studios does a Doctor Strange movie, will they try to explain magic in scientific terms? Midi-chlorians? Unexplained magic in Lord of the Rings movies and Harry Potter movies worked fine. Also, will DC WB have the same reluctance?
Here's the thing about... Whenever you're talking about superhero films and things like that, a lot of people, sometimes you'll have a problem with a superhero film, right? Like I'll say in a Superman movie, oh, I hated that character who's not Superman suddenly did this. Nobody would do that. And inevitably, somebody else would say to me, oh, come on, you buy a guy flying around in blue tights, but you don't buy a woman doing that? Here's my argument against that. The magic part of superhero films, and a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, is the concept of the fantastic within the mundane. In other words, the extraordinary in our ordinary world. When you have a context in a film that it is the ordinary world, that you and I live every day, and that all the rules apply that apply to us, and then you introduce something out of that world, something fantastic into it, that's where the drama comes, that's where the interest comes. Suddenly you have Thor in the real world in a New Mexico desert and something, things he doesn't understand and everybody doesn't understand him. That's interesting, but it only works, I believe, if you maintain all the other sets of rules that happen within the regular world. Now, you want to bring up Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, that's fine, but those are completely different worlds. Those are worlds where it's the fantastic within the fantastic all the time. And to be honest, like as much as I started to like the Harry Potter films more and more and more as we got near the end, to the point where I actually really enjoyed the last couple of them, they kind of lost that sense of awe and wonder because everything in the Harry Potter world is magic and trees come to life and magical beasts and everything was fantastic. So while I still love the movie, I didn't have the sense of awe and wonder with it. Same with Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was breathtaking in its scope and its brilliant narrative and it's everything right. But by the third film, while I was enjoying it completely and I thought it was masterful, I didn't have the sense of awe and wonder with it that I did at the beginning because it's the fantastic within the fantastic. Now, Marvel and DC have done a really good job, I believe, especially with Superman and Batman, things like that, exploring that idea and keeping that context of the fantastic within the mundane. And my one fear, actually, of the Marvel Universe moving forward now is that it seems to be filled with fantastic everywhere. And I'm afraid of the Marvel Universe starting to lose a little bit of that sense of awe and wonder because now there are 50,000 superheroes running around and everything is superpowers and whatever. But I do think that's why companies like Marvel, Disney have kept the idea of the magical out because they still want to maintain the regular rules of the regular world, just with these supernatural characters in it. That's what I think they're doing with Doctor Strange. They may have to make an exception if you're going to do Doctor Strange. He's the Wizard Supreme. I mean, how do you get around that? But I think that's why they've done it to this point so far. Amy Rose, why do you think they've done it this way? Do you think it's a good thing that they've done it that way, a bad thing? How would you do it?
Yeah, I think you touched on it perfectly. The approach that they've taken thus far with these films is to keep it very grounded and real. And that's been, I mean, look at Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Look at all the Marvel films. I mean, we accept that Bruce can turn into this giant green rage monster.
Right.
I mean, we accept all these different things, but it still feels very grounded. I believe that Thor is this god of thunder. I mean, because the way they make it feel just much more realistic and like we could interact with these characters, they're choosing to keep it more grounded opposed to the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potters that you used in your question, Aaron, which allow us and kind of force us to kind of accept a different, I don't know, perception of what we expect magic in the everyday life. And I agree with the Harry Potter trilogy as well, is that it kind of lost, even though I loved the darker kind of, end note that they kind of concluded the whole series on, I missed the magic and mysticism and all of that. And I thought that was part of the fun of like the classes, them learning all the spells and all of that stuff. But with Marvel and DC, I just think that they're trying to, not make it this big comical superhero. They're trying to make it more realistic and gritty and dark. And those are the films that I've really been loving, and those are the ones that I feel like are doing these properties justice. So I'm glad that they are, but there are certain liberties that must be taken with, different characters. I mean, that really define who they are as a character. You can't really avoid that, and if you do, it's going to really be dumb. So I think that I like what they've been doing, but if you are going to do other characters, do it right or don't do it at all.
Aaron?
I think that Marvel and DC have done a really good job in keeping things grounded, as you guys mentioned, and it makes the characters more relatable. I think it makes the movie a little bit more universally, I think, entertaining by keeping it more towards maybe a sci-fi genre than necessarily a fantasy genre. But with Doctor Strange, that's a character that's, I'm going to say it's impossible to have that character exist in the cinematic universe without any magic at all whatsoever. So I think we're going to see it in the MCU. So Marvel's Cinematic Universe is definitely moving in that direction just by incorporating that character.
Yeah, I love the example you brought up with Thor, and this illustrates it perfectly. There's this great scene in Thor, one of my favorite scenes, that I've seen the film like 20 times, and I still get goosebumps. It's right near the end, after he gets you think he's died, and you see Odin again, he who is worthy, he possesses the power of Thor, and he comes back to life, right? The hammer flies back into his hand, he holds it up, lightning strikes, his armor starts to assemble back on him, and he walks out of the dust, and everybody's like, oh. Now, I think the reason that had such impact was because it happened in some small little New Mexico town. It was the fantastic within the mundane. If that same scene had happened on Asgard, I don't know if I'd have I don't think I'd have goosebumps, right? It was the fantastic within the mundane, and that was a great example, actually, bringing up Thor. So.
And don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.